Okay, so in our last video, we finished up, we're not actually finished, but we sort of finished up with at least getting all of our form fields uh, inside of our form, and they're working with our form. One thing I forgot to continue forward with, and I started talking about it and then I kind of got sidetracked, was the submit button. So the submit button, as soon as you put the value into a submit button, it has a standard behavior, and that standard behavior is to show up is this little button with the word submit in it, and that's because the value is submit. If I were to go here and change, if I were to go here and change the value, and let's call the value something like go, like that, okay? Then if, let's save that and let's go test it, hit refresh, you see that the value, it changes, okay? And the button name changes. And so this is kind of confusing for a lot of people because technically one of the things that you see that we don't have is we don't have a label for the submit button, but technically we're supposed to, even though the value shows up here. And so what you can do is there's some different things that you can do, but you're supposed to also have this label, so you can have a label here that says, let's do a label, and we'll say for equals, and the ID is that it's for is submit. It's for the submit ID, and we would typically want to say submit, okay, something like that, and then you'd have your input following it, okay. Here, let's just leave it like that. And so let's save that and let's go take a look at it. Oh, the other thing too is that I need a paragraph tag around this so that it's on its own line. So we'll do paragraph like that. And if it's in its own paragraph tag, then it'll take a block level element and go into its own line. So let's go back here and refresh this form. And you see now it says submit colon and the value is go. All right, so this is like awkward for some people, and so there's some ways that you can deal with that. So for instance, let's go back down to brackets. What we can do is we can make a class where it says label for submit. We can also add a class, and we can make the class called hide or hidden or something like that. Let's call it hide. And what that'll do is it'll basically visually remove the label from the page. However, it will still be there for people who are using screen readers. So we can use CSS to hide this label because, interestingly enough, it is more confusing, I think, for people who can see to have that extra label there. Even though it's still going to be helpful for somebody using a screen reader, it actually creates I think, sort of a problem in terms of the this easy understanding, right, capacity part of it. Whenever you have two things that either say submit or like this ought to really say submit, like it doesn't have to, but that would make sense. And so if you have submit and then submit right next to it, it's kind of awkward. So for right now, we're just going to put a class of hide on there, even though we don't have any CSS yet, that will take care of that. But let's just take a look real quick and then let's hit refresh. You can see it's awkward to see a submit label next to a button that actually says submit inside of it. And if you wanted just really fast, we could write some really fast CSS. Let's go back over here to our vertical split view, and then for this we're gonna go into our CSS. And so let's just go down here, and I'm gonna make a little thing here called special classes so that it can be separate from other things. I'll put it in a comment, and we'll say hide. And what we'll do for hide is we'll say that we're going to use a text indent. Do text indent of negative, like crazy amount of pixels, right? And then we also need to do something else. We need to say change the display to inline block. Here, start to type inline. Let's do inline block like that. And this will basically throw it off the page, but it'll still be available for screen reader. So save that. Let's jump back over here. Let's do a refresh. And you see that now it's visually off the page, but that submit button is still there. And if you wanted to take a look real quickly at your uh, either your view source or your developer tools or whatever, you could come down here and you'll still see that the label is still actually there. Okay, so for a screen reader to actually see it, it's still there. So the next thing we need to do is look at how we can organize this content so that it's not all jumbled up like this. So if you look at this, we have some common information. We have this stuff that I've highlighted. It's kind of about sign up and contact information. It's about the user. And then this is about your age requirement. Okay, and then below that is about the person's volunteering interests, and then down here is something about special skills. So we could actually break that into 4 different sections using this thing called the field set. And field set is actually helpful to people who are using screen readers. We can go ahead, while we're still writing this, let's just go ahead and let's close this out, and we'll close this panel. So we've got a full screen of HTML. So we kind of kept everything sort of in the same, like grouped up pretty well in the same areas. But what you would want to do is you would want to take that whole group of things that are related, like all of these things that are about user information, and you want to wrap something around that is called field set. Okay. Oops. Sorry. I need to do that again and actually type the tags, the whatever those things are called, the brackets, right? So we have field set. Now, the other thing that we need to do is we can't just plain old simple do field set that way. What we also need to do is we need to use what's referred to as a legend, okay? And the legend is going to be the name of that content that you're, that section for the content that you're looking at. So for this, let's just say that we're going to call this contact and sign up info. And it's important that this legend goes immediately inside the field set. That's where it's supposed to be located. And then the other thing that we're going to do is let's go ahead and make sure that all of this stuff is tabbed in properly, because it kind of isn't right now. There, that looks a little bit better. And then we need to go and create another field set, and we're going to put it around this content here. So we'll do that again. And let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit. And then again, we need to put our legend right there at the beginning. So just type that. And this one is going to be age requirement. Okay. And then we'll come down here and let's just wrap this whole bit of business here with our field set. And we're going to clean this up again. Okay, and then right here where it says volunteering interest, I actually want that to be my legend. So let's just change that from P to legend, and then I will fix the ending tag like that. All right, and then this last bit, let's go ahead and wrap the text area in a field set also. So let's do that. And again, we need our legend. And right here, so this is kind of tricky because this label exists down here that says special skills. So let's think about what we'd want to put here. And, actually, as it occurs to me, I kind of think that I don't want to have a separate field set for this, because really this is still this special skills stuff. It's still about volunteering your interests, right? Your interest in volunteering. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to get rid of this ending field set and this beginning field set and this legend. I'm going to get rid of it like that, and I'm just going to keep this area right here. I'm going to keep it together as part of this volunteering interests field set like this. Okay, what I will do is I will tab this stuff in so that it's a little bit cleaner and I can see that it's nested inside the field set pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll save this, and let's take a peek and see how that looks. And let's hit the refresh key, and then all of a sudden now you've got something that's a little bit easier to kind of break up in terms of the you know, the different categories of information that you're asking people to fill out. Okay, so that's pretty good in terms of the HTML. Yeah, you know, later we might come and add more HTML stuff in here as necessary as we're styling it, but for right now this is pretty good. So if we wanted to go and fill this thing out, I can just, you know, type some garbage password, right? And then I'm 18. Let's just try something different. Let's say I will be 18 by the time of the event. And then I'm interested in ticket taking and setup, and my special skills are I am a ninja. Okay. Okay. And I'll hit submit, and it's asking me, do I want to save this password? No, I don't want to save that password. But you see, now it's got all of this information, and if I blow this up a little bit so you can see it better, remember we've got our key name, which is, we said is full name, and I put my full name, Lee Cotner. Email, I put my email address. Phone, that's my work phone. Password is this, whatever this nonsense is. And there are other ways, by the way, that you can encrypt this stuff so that it's not being sent in clear text. We're not going to get into all of that right now, but there are extra things that you would do so that your stuff doesn't get hijacked across the web in clear text. It would get encrypted, but anyway, and we're not getting into all those technologies. Age, right, will be of age. Interest 1 was tickets. It skipped interest 2 and interest 4 because I didn't check those. Interest 3 setup, but at least now I know that these are things that I care about. So skills, I'm a ninja, right? So the thing is, though, is if I were to have this send to an email for somebody who was doing volunteer stuff, then they could take this form data and then just plug it in somewhere. They would know that I cared about doing tickets and setup. They would have my phone number. They could contact me, whatever, right? Okay. And then this other stuff that's down here is just to help you understand a little bit. You can go back and read it. It's stuff I've already explained, but it's how to read this information up here. Also, if you're having problems, if the array above is empty, you either did something wrong on your form or you can't navigate directly to this page. You have to actually come to it from the original page. One other last thing that I want to show you that you can do on your form too, that's important, is that if I go back to brackets, all the way up here where it says form, up here, the other thing that I didn't tell you is, so far every time I hit that submit button, it in the same tab, it goes to that that processing page. If I want it to open in a new window, I need to go over here and say blank, or excuse me, target equals, and then I'm going to choose blank. All right, so I'm going to choose target blank. I'll save that, and this will be the last thing that we do before we, here, I'll hit that back button. I'll go ahead, and I'm not even going to bother, actually I do need to refresh it. So let's just say I leave off my name and stuff like that. I'm not going to mess with that. Let's say that I'm going to choose some of these things, right, and then blah 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 blah, right, and I hit submit. Okay, so it left off name, email, phone, password, because I didn't fill those out. And then for age, it did of age and so on. But what you'll notice that it did is that it opened it in a totally new tab now, right? So I can close that, and I could just sit there and fill it out and reprocess it over and over again. And anyway, we're good to go now. And then in the next tutorials, I'm going to start showing you how you can style this thing. It's not as straightforward as you might think to style a form.